here on Lake Minawaka today, you're probably thinking that you might want to see some wildlife. So don't actually look for the wildlife itself, because the chances of you seeing it are going to be pretty slim to start. They blend in really, really well with all the colors in the shoreline, the colors of the trees, etc. So if you're looking all along the shore, what you want to look for is movement. And this movement is going to signify an animal. You can scream and yell. You can point over to it. Tom will slow down the boat. He has pretty amazing capabilities in this boat, so we'll spin it around a whole 360 and make sure we get, no, not a barrel roll, man, a 360, okay? We're going to do 360, get some good photos, and just ask that not everybody goes from one side of the boat to the other all